Just a quick thanks to Kinguin.net for sponsoring this video. Mass Effect Andromeda is the next installment in the world-renowned Mass Effect series, and it launches on March 21st here in the US and March 23rd elsewhere. And naturally, when a new game comes out, it typically is around $60 in the US, and even more if you're living overseas. And so it's important to spend your money carefully, which is why I'm going to go over the 5 things that you need to know about Mass Effect Andromeda to make an informed purchase. Number 1 is that the game is set in a new galaxy, the Andromeda Galaxy. Now, the reason that this is significant is because it allows BioWare to essentially bypass all of the choices you made in the first 3 games, which, if you played the 3rd game, you will appreciate because the ending was absolutely terrible. Going to a new galaxy essentially allows BioWare to create a new story, to treat this as its own starter of a new trilogy, its own story, which means that it's not bogged down by all the baggage of past games. They don't have to build all this stuff up to handle previous choices. You can start anew, and I think that's awesome. Number 2 is that combat has been overhauled. They have spoken to this multiple times, saying that they've attempted to make combat much more fluid, faster, more energetic, and aggressive. They've given you a jetpack, and they've even increased the speed and aggressivity of your opponents to try to encourage a more active play style, which you can see in the gameplay on screen right now. The game is much more intense, at least in the combat sections, than it has been in previous iterations of the series, which I welcome with open arms. Number 3 is that Mass Effect Andromeda will have roughly 1,200 unique speaking NPCs, which in terms of raw dialogue options would roughly equal the first 3 Mass Effect games combined, which is crazy to think about when you really follow that through. Now, this does have potential drawbacks, as we'll talk about with number 5 on this list. When you tend to go for quantity, you also lose quality, which, according to recent reports that have leaked in early reviews, seems to be a problem, especially early on in the game. But, point being, the game is massive. Number 4 is that they are pushing RPG elements in this game more than ever. They've spoken multiple times, that they are going for more of a Witcher 3 vibe with the side quests. They're trying to give you more organic experiences rather than going from character to character asking for side quests and things that you can do or fetch for them. Rather, now you're going to just explore the world and things will naturally come up and invite themselves to you and invite you in to perform in them or do something for them. And they've really apparently tried to push unique story-driven side quests as opposed to simple MMO-style fetch quests, which were fairly prominent in past BioWare titles. And number 5, how could I not address it? This game, with early access, has had some mixed responses. The number 1 criticism of the game so far is that the facial animations for the humanoid characters are really stiff. They tend to be lifeless, and as I said in my podcast the other day, it seems to all be because there's barely any movement from the eyebrows up. There's no furrowing of the brow, there's no questioned or stern brows, there's nothing like that. It's all from the mouth or nostrils down, which naturally for humans looking at other characters which are supposed to be humans pulls us out of immersion. It makes us notice something isn't quite right. Now, many of these complaints have been blown out of proportion because the game actually has you in a suit with a helmet for most of it, and these sequences where you're interacting with humans are actually fairly few and far between. For the most part, you're going to be interacting with other races, other classes, aliens, for instance, which apparently do not have any such animation issues, probably because we don't know how aliens are supposed to talk, so even if they look a little weird, our brains just tell us that that's how it's supposed to be. But when humans do it, it comes off as stiff, it's difficult to sympathize with, it comes off as creepy sometimes. Now, the game director has spoken to this, and he said that they will look into seeing what they can fix with it, but not on day 1. So, if this seems like something that will pull you out of the game completely when it happens, then it's probably worth staying away for a little while to see if they can fix it or do anything in a future patch, which is unlikely, to be fair, but if it really does bug you, this probably is not the game for you. But if you're willing to overlook it, or if you can make it through the first few hours, then you should be able to manage just fine and go about and play the rest of the game. These BioWare titles tend to be fairly massive, and the introductory hours are always clunky, are always hard to get through, and this sounds like just another one of their typical introduction sequences, which are stiff, which are jagged, a little rough around the edges, but they're only there to get you into the main game, which, by all accounts so far, is outstanding. Now, as with most games, this will launch at $60 full price at retail. That's a lot of money, especially for me as a struggling, broke college student. So I have to be very, very careful how and where I spend my money and save it whenever I can, which is why I'm glad that Kinguin.net actually reached out to me to sponsor this video, because they're having a big promotion on Mass Effect Andromeda specifically, but also other PC games and other items and CSGO skins that you could want. Really anything that you would need for gaming, they offer at a discounted rate. Now, they follow all international guidelines, regulations, laws. Everything is 100% legit. I've purchased things from them. I actually purchased the first 3 Mass Effect games through them and have been going through those in anticipation of Mass Effect Andromeda, and I highly recommend that you check them out. If you go over to their website and use promo code LukiPoo, you will actually get a discount on the already discounted prices. So it's really just all around a great deal. It's a win-win for everybody. Thank you, Kinguin.net, for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching this video. I love you all. Peace out, love you, bye.